Hey, Richest Money Maniacs, welcome back. In this video, I have some really exciting news. Tesla has entered into making AR-15 rifles. How exciting is that? Let's get right to it. Hey, Richest Money Maniacs, welcome back. Tom coming at you. In this video, I want to talk about not the fact that Elon Musk has left California. Finally, the smartest man in the world leaves California. That means it's time to go and move to Texas. But now that he's in Texas, guess what he's doing? He's going to start manufacturing rifles. Yee-hee! So, is this real or is it not real? Well, let's find out. Let's look at the article. The Babylon Bee writes, immediately after moving to Texas, Elon Musk announces Tesla AR-15. Austin, Texas. After years of fighting lame California politicians who want to lock everyone in their homes so they can't go to space or build cool stuff, Tesla CEO Elon Musk announced he was moving to a land flowing with milk and honey called Texas. Almost immediately after the movie announced a new product the whole world has been waiting for, the Tesla AR-15. Howdy, I think, said Elon, expertly taking on the local dialect. Y'all want a Tesla AR-15? You got it, partner. The new firearm will look similar to a standard AR-15, but will in fact be a battery-powered railgun capable of firing 3 million rounds per minute. It will also feature a fingerprint sensor, Bluetooth capability, heat-seeking ammunition, and a chainsaw bayonet. We really wanted to rethink self-defense, said Musk. This new firearm will be the go-to rifle for our SpaceX volunteers when they encounter hostile aliens. It's also a celebration of the Second Amendment. If any federal authorities try to confiscate it, the rifle will automatically connect to the internet and file a lawsuit for you. The federal government has requested that Tesla at least remove the AI-powered self-driving feature of the firearm before selling it. A self-driving rifle. How about that? So clearly this is a joke, and this is pointing out the fact that Elon Musk has moved from California to Texas. Now, he still has a substantial presence in California, but even that is becoming more and more diminished. The state is really just choking the life out of everybody there. But I won't go into that. What we're going to talk about is the idea that rifles in Texas, or rifles in general, are a right. That's a God-given right to be able to defend yourself that's protected by the Second Amendment, right? Now, here's the interesting thing that a lot of folks don't realize. When you look back through the thousands of years of history, there's a clear-cut delineation between a slave and a serf, which are kind of the same thing, and a free man. And that clear-cut delineation is the right to bear arms and defend yourself and your family. Slaves and serfs. Serfs are the little peasants that served the royal family, right? So they didn't own anything. The royal family, the monarchies, the dictators, they ruled and owned everything, and you just lived on the land and worked it for their benefit. And so you had to give them gifts as thanks for letting them live on their land and letting you build a family and work the land and farm and do all the hard work, and thank them for the privilege of being on that land, right? So that delineation, that's why so many people wanted to have a royal title. And become landowners. The right to own something also meant that you had the legal right to carry a sword, to carry a rifle, to carry a knife, to carry something to defend yourself. You were not allowed by law and could be put to death for defending yourself with a weapon if you were a slave, obviously, or a serf, because your life doesn't matter. You're just a serf. You're just supposed to produce and give to the royalty. And so this whole movement in the United States right now to basically make it as difficult as possible for folks to own their weapons to defend their own homes. And then even worse, that if they're in their own home being attacked by someone in their home, they're not allowed to defend themselves or stop their wife from being murdered and raped, or their children from being murdered and raped, or from all of their belongings being stolen. I mean, there's all kinds of laws in states right now that are really twisted. Someone comes into your home and threatens to kill you or even kills your wife. You're supposed to try and jump out a window and run away. You're just supposed to get away from them, because if you had an opportunity to get away and you didn't, then the court's going to find you guilty of manslaughter if you take their life instead. It doesn't matter that they already murdered your wife. All that matters is that you had a chance to get away and you didn't. So this video, though, is not about political stance on whether it's moral or not. It's to educate all of the money maniacs out there on the idea that a free man has the God-given right and the protection of the Constitution to arm yourself. Now, here's the interesting thing also. Slaves and serfs were not legally allowed to defend themselves with weapons by owning and holding and using weapons, but free men were. Not only were they allowed legally, but culturally, they were expected to have a weapon and to understand how to use it. That was your duty. You were actually given the obligation of protecting the people and protecting the land. So think about this for a second, right? The United States of America is trying to take away the right to buy guns. But what are people doing while they're doing that? Gun sales are through the roof. In fact, right now, today, you cannot get certain ammunitions because they can't make them fast enough. Now, what does that mean to a money maniac? That means that there's an opportunity there. Where there's need and demand, there's opportunity to make money. So I would strongly encourage all of the money maniacs that are watching this video and watch and study the videos that we put out to look very closely at the gun and ammunition industries. Now, there's a catch, because part of the reason that there is such a shortage is not just because there's such a huge amount of demand. It's also because there's some supply chain challenges. Remember, a lot of manufacturing, including raw materials, metals, and gunpowder and things like that, aren't always manufactured in the United States. In fact, most manufacturing does not happen in the United States. And right now, because of the health crisis, there's not a whole lot of global trade that's going on that's real free. In fact, there's only specific powerful entities. You have to be a Walmart or an Amazon or a Target. You have to be a big, huge chain. And you have to have political clout. You have to have friends and lobbyists in government positions who give you favors and special privilege over everybody else. So when you look at this industry and you look for those opportunities, keep in mind that you also have to be wary of the supply chains of where these goods are coming from. In fact, I just looked at a business not too long ago that was selling, they were trying to sell the business to me, and they sell specifically a particular type of baby food that comes from Europe. And the reason it's so popular is because it's really good for their children. It's all organic. It's actually Demeter. If you don't know what Demeter is, it's beyond organic. It's super, super strict on how the food can be raised and what land is around it. And they can't use pesticides even on acres next to where the food is being grown, and then how it's processed afterwards. So it's extremely good for your children. It's extremely good for the babies. It's high quality, and it's a niche. It's very specialized product, and so it can demand a really high price, and that makes for a higher profit margin, except that it's being shipped all the way across the Atlantic Ocean. And so at first I looked at that business model and I thought, oh, that would be a good business to look into investing in, and possibly even just buying outright. But then I started studying the supply chain breakdown and what's happening with the shipping industry right now and what's happening with the political climate. And I thought, there's a really good possibility that the US government or even the UK government could say that no food is leaving the country, we're locking down again, and then my business model would come to a screeching halt, just like a lot of these restaurants and mom and pop shops all over the world right now. So I decided to pause on that. So when you study it though, when you study the ammunition side of it, or you study the industry that makes the magazines or the cartridges, or you study those who actually make the rifles or actually make the handguns, make sure that you look at their verticals also. That's a industry term for looking at, well, any business term for looking at where the supply chain comes from so that they can build the product and then the product can be actually shipped out. All those different verticals that are involved in creating a product and then delivering it to a customer for a profit are called verticals. So make sure you do your homework, but this could be a really exciting opportunity because in the United States of America, there are a lot of Americans who will never surrender their weapons. In fact, they probably will fight to the death first. Now, I would not encourage that. I would encourage to defend your right, and I would encourage to, civil disobedience. However, these people are extremely passionate about being gun owners, and they understand the intrinsic value of being able to defend yourself and be a free man and not a slave or a serf. And so you will never be able to take them from them. They will fight back one way or another. They will either A, vote these elected officials out who are trying to take them away, or B, march and drag them out of their seats physically. Because these are folks that understand actually how things work in the universe, in life, in nature, and also in politics. They're not dumb people. So they understand what it means when you say to them, it's illegal to own a gun anymore. You're now a criminal. So think about that as a money maniac, as an opportunity for you to develop some kind of business model, some kind of maybe even a certification, or maybe just to outright buy an ammunition manufacturing firm and take it over and supply that need. So there are a lot of people probably who are watching also who might have a challenge with that morally because you don't really understand what guns are used for. Very often, a lot of people think that guns are just for, threatening people or defending your home. But actually, if you've ever lived in a rural area, you know that, for instance, in Pennsylvania, deer can be deadly. And they can overpopulate very rapidly, much like rats or cockroaches. They actually breed very rapidly. And what happens is that they walk in the road and people die in car accidents because of being driven off the road by a deer. They didn't want to hit the deer, so they drove off the road, hit a tree, and died. Or worse, they hit the deer and the deer came through the window, killed someone in the car, and the deer got up and walked away. See, they're pretty durable. I'm not saying that they're invincible, but they're big animals. And so they're a real challenge in Pennsylvania, in the Northeast. But then even if you go down to Texas, if you own property in Texas, you know you need a rifle to make sure that you keep the wild pig population down on your property. Why? Because wild pigs are aggressive and they will kill a human being. They will attack you and literally chew you to death, maul you to death. So you have to keep their population down on the property because like deer and like rats and like cockroaches, they multiply very rapidly. So you need this rifle to be able to just keep population of these pests under control. Think about that for a second. If you've never owned property before, you would never have heard that before. You wouldn't understand the necessity of being able to manage the population of the animals on your property. So there's a whole bunch of different reasons beyond just self-defense that people need to own guns. But one of the most important, especially to me, is the difference between being a free man or being a slave or a serf. So think about that as an opportunity as a money maniac, to look at the gun and supply and accessory industry as an opportunity for you to invest in or even start a business in, or maybe even develop an app. So I hope you found this video helpful, insightful, and maybe even inspiring. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Also, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We would love to have you back again. And always make sure if you have a strong opinion about something that I've said, make sure you make a comment below. I would love to have a conversation with you about it. All right, everybody, see you next time.